could raise your hand. Great, fantastic. So thank you all for coming, especially on a Sunday night. I know all of you are really tired. Most of you have probably been out to parties or been out to celebrations or just been at PAX or whatever, going to concerts. I was actually really shocked that they booked a semi-serious talk at 10 p.m., which was really surprising. So I actually ended up changing my talk from semi-serious to non-serious. Don't worry, there's still plenty of serious things in here, but I hope to make you guys laugh a little bit. Give you some kind of reward for being out here with me at 10 a.m. I was actually out earlier at the Double Fine party. I drank a little too much, so I'm sober-ish during the talk. But anyway, I want to thank you all for coming out here, especially so late. I wanted to give you guys a special heads up. This talk is profane. It does have profanity in it. If you find yourself, I like the applause. If you find yourself especially offended by profanity, especially offended by harassing terms or sexual innuendo or anything like that, please cover your ears. You can see the slides afterward. Actually, you know what? Just don't even look at the slides. You know, just leave. That'd be great. Best thing. It's not like PAX isn't very G-rated anyway. I mean, like Jerry and Mike will run around all day and say fucking shit like nothing else. But seriously, don't say it and warn you. So. Anyway, I wanted to get started. It's 12:50. Oh wait, never mind. Sorry, my laptop is still on East Coast time. So it's 10 p.m. right now. My talk is called "The Worst of the Worst: Hacking, Exploitation, and Abuse Within Online Games." Hopefully, you guys are very excited about this. I want to talk a little bit about myself really first. So I have a strong background in nasty game activities. I have banned many thousands of players. How many thousands? My conservative estimate is 45,000 actual players that I have banned. I've worked on close to a dozen titles, if you include expansions. My standout games are EVE Online, Lord of the Rings Online, Dungeons & Dragons Online, Asheron's Call, and Game of Thrones. So you see up there several of the titles I've worked on, some kids games, some first-person shooters, some you may know, some you may not know. I actually ended up cutting my teeth on EVE Online starting way back in 2004. Before then, I was just a regular script kiddie and troller and whatnot. I worked my way through there to Turbine, eventually working on Lord of the Rings Online for its launch, Dungeons & Dragons Online, Asheron's Call 2 relaunch, which is very fantastic. Now I'm currently working with a company called Disruptor Beam in Boston. We make Game of Thrones Ascent, which is a social and browser game based on Game of Thrones, working with HBO and George R.R. Martin. So as I've said, I've politely escorted tens of thousands of players at a game. I traded a long time ago, years ago, my band cannon to command a band brigade, which is fantastic, and now I'm working on Game of Thrones. So I decided that this talk was going to be a little bit of a choose your own adventure, except I am choosing your adventure for you. You had a couple options. Option one was the terrible, horrible truth. Oh, it didn't. Terrible, horrible truth. This is what I would talk about at GDC. GDC is filled with a bunch of professionals. Those professionals are terrified of players, and they enjoy the sort of mixed emotional, horrendous reactions they get from thinking that players might have some kind of reaction. Maybe even they might hate their games. But instead I'm going to go with stories. It's filled with oh shit. Rainbows and happy people and people throwing hats up in the air and everything. By the way, I really like that cat photo. It's one of my favorite photos. My cat is actually angrier than that when we met him, which is pretty amusing. So anyway, I decided to go with stories because you guys really want to hear stories. In fact, that was reiterated this afternoon. I went to a customer service talk, and the best, well-received part of it was telling the crazy shit that happens in customer service. So that's where I'm going to start. So what are we talking about? Abuse, from harassment to sexist and racist chat to defamation. This is really fun. You guys have all heard about harassment. You've all been harassed, ideally. You've seen sexist and racist chat. You've seen people calling you a motherfucker. You've seen people defaming you. It's all fun. We've all seen it. If you've been on the intranets, then you've seen it. We're also going to talk about exploitation of intended and unintended game mechanics. Y'all have seen that too. If you've played an online MMO, you've seen hacking. You've seen people run around running 3 times the speed they should. You've seen people run around with 8 gazillion gold when you only have 12. It's pretty nasty. And we're going to talk about hacking, both for players and for game infrastructure, something that is actually the least
specific thing I can talk about precisely because I'm still under NDA and many other legal requirements to not talk about what I've seen here. But I think we can start off with Mike and Jerry's, internet fuckwad theory, which I think has been proven many years many times over the years, which is that a normal person plus anonymity plus an audience equals a total motherfucking fuckwad. I hope you all realize that this is one of the inherent truths of the internets in the last 20 years. I have been on the internet since at least 1994. I have been both terrible and wonderful. And one of the things that I found over the years is that anonymity plus normal people does bring out the worst in them and the best in them. But I wanted to start off first with profanity. Profanity, let's get this out of the way. Profanity is funny as shit. Profanity is one of those things that you see every day on the internets. It's probably the oldest issue in online games, and it changes as quickly as it gets filtered. One of my favorite quotes comes from Urban Dictionary. Profanity, a linguistic crutch for the inarticulate motherfucker. I have seen profanity of so many different flavors and so many different types, it's kind of unbelievable. It's one of those things when my wife comes up to me and she says, "This is full of shit," I say, "No, that's not strong enough. This is full of a bag of putrid cow shit, which hasn't been putrefying for very long, but long enough that you smell it and you think, that's putrid cow shit." And she thinks, that's really very specific and far more than I wanted to hear. But let's get going. So, beyond profanity, we have things like abuse and trolling. Let's be very clear here. Profanity is not abuse and trolling. Profanity could be you playing a raid boss. Profanity could be you rolling into a portion of the world. You say shit. That's it. That's all you say. You say shit. Shit is an exclamation. Fuck is an exclamation. They are intensifiers. When I was in college, my roommate decided that to get around all the profanity restrictions of our college, he would use the word Viking instead of any other profanity. So he would scream out in the middle of class, "This Viking test is too hard." Professors had no idea what he was talking about. They thought he was Nordic. I mean, in his defense, he was like 6'2" and blonde. But he would yell out Viking in the middle of everything, and I would say, "This Viking test," and they would say, "That's Viking ridiculous." It actually confused the hell out of people when we were playing online games because we would say, "Y'all are Viking terrible," and they would be like, "I don't know how to respond to that. Is that good or bad? I'm not sure. Like, Vikings were pretty badass, but you called me terrible." It was actually pretty amazing. We were in college when Counter-Strike Source came out in 2004, and we ended up owning noobs with the op pretty much 24/7 to the very serious detriment of our grades. And we ended up spending a lot of time using profanity on Counter-Strike. If you've ever played Counter-Strike, you know that profanity is born on Counter-Strike. It's one of those things where you roll up and someone has a spray in front of there and the spray literally just says, "Fuck you." That's it, it's just words. There's no photo in it at all. It just says, "Fuck you." And you think like, wow, it's actually better than a lot of sprays I see in Counter-Strike. Yeah. But abuse and trolling is a little different. Abuse is not just profanity. Abuse is defamation, trolling, harassment, and slurs. When someone tells you to eat shit, they are abusing you. When someone says, "Shut the fuck up, noob," they are abusing you. By the way, that sums up all 200 games of League of Legends that I have played. Whenever I talk to my friends at Riot, I'm always like, "You don't understand. I'm the only noob that has played 200 games of League of Legends." They take a look at my record and they're like, "You are terrible. It's true." You may be thinking right now, your presentation is bad and you should feel bad. This is something I've seen many times. Defamation, abuse, and trolling and harassment, all of this stuff contributes to a nasty, negative environment. I'm going to tell you my first story. My first story, and I hope to bring many of these if you know me at all, which most of you don't. I talk unceasingly at work. In fact, when my coworkers heard that I was giving a talk at PAX, they're like, "Fantastic, he'll be out of our hair for a week and a half. This will be amazing." I have seen a lot of abuse and trolling in online games, and one of the most amazing examples of trolling I've seen is something I called cake farts. It started off with cake. I was the one that took this ticket. At the time, I was a senior game master at Turbine, And I got a ticket complaining this guy was saying Cake Farts was a wonderful website that you should visit. So initially I thought, cakes are nice. I like cakes. Who doesn't like cakes? And I thought, well, what about farts? Farts aren't that great. So then I ended up visiting the website, and I really don't know what I expected. Cake Farts is exactly what you think it is. It is nude people squatting onto an iced cake and farting into it. The IT department did not know what to think of my browsing history after that. At the time, Turbine was 200-300 people. Our IT department was significant, and they learned a long time ago to stop patrolling what we viewed. When someone would roll through and they would join into one of our major player hubs and they would say, hey everyone, check out Cake Farts. It's amazing, it's about cakes. You'll love it. Players would go in and take a look at Cake Farts and they'd be like, I just don't know if I'm being abused or not. I just don't. It's unclear. There is a cake, but there's also a naked man farting into it. I'm not sure. By the way, if you're checking it right now, I think the domain lapsed, so you might be able to buy it right now. It was one of the weird elements and one of the weird things I've ever seen in my life when I was actually being paid to check out a website about people farting in cakes. Definitely one of the weirder things. And not one of the things that I'll tell my children either. It'd be like, hey Dad, tell me a story about the time you worked in the games industry. Well, not that story. Maybe when you're older. Outside of, at least exploitation, it's a little different from harassment and abuse. Y'all have seen harassment and abuse. If you post in a forum, chances are you've had someone abuse or harass you in that forum. You know what it means. You log into any online game, someone rolls in there and says, you fucking suck. You're being abused. And what's really the most unfortunate thing about that is that you end up adopting that persona later on towards people that come towards you and they are new or there's someone who doesn't understand the rules of your community. And you say, you know what? Fuck you. You don't understand what this is like. This is a forum. We have rules. You have to be rude to each other here. How dare you come in with your politeness and your, not understanding what's going on. But exploitation and bugs takes us like a little deeper in. If you think of things as an onion, this is a very Shrek reference right here. You think of things as an onion, exploitation is the second layer of the onion. Harassment, profanity, that's the first layer. Exploitation is more like, this is where I get my jollies off, as one of the guys who gets to deal with exploitation and bugs. Exploitation is really abusive game code resulting in unexpected behavior. I like that phrase, by the way, unexpected behavior. Usually for a player's benefit or gain. One of the most common things people say, well, I only did it a little. I can't tell you how many times I've been working on an online game and I have had one of my players say, well, I only did a little. One of the stories was we had an infinite XP exploit in one of the games I used to manage. You could run a single quest as many times as you wanted as long as you knew where to quit it and retry it. Basically, you get the rewards, but it wouldn't count as being completed, so you can complete it again. Very common. By the way, this happens in most online games. I would be shocked if any online game company never had something like this in it. So I actually had a player come up and said, well, I only did a little. I was like, well, I actually show you completing that quest 3,000 times in the last 18 hours. So I really want you to define what little is, because you know what people normally complete? Once. They complete that quest fucking once. That's what it is. Because it can only be completed once, unless you're exploiting. So at that point he was like, well, I do see your point. I can see how you might think I was exploiting. The other thing is, like, well, if you don't want me to do it, it shouldn't be in the code. This is actually a favorite of one of my current job, one of our senior QA testers. He loves this. Because he sits there and he gets bug reports all day, and the bug report will say, well, if you didn't like this, it shouldn't have been in the code. And he's like, well, you know what's not in the code in the simulation of life? Fucking killing people. But you're not allowed to do it. It's not okay. So we'll actually end up submitting, people will say like, well, I was totally able to. Just because I malformed a packet and sent incorrect information back to your server, your code let me do that. It's totally okay. It's like when you cook meth in your house and you then sell it to minors. God put that code in the game, but I don't think he intended to let you abuse it. You know, you get like once, and the cops come and arrest you. You know, it's the way things work. And then, of course, my favorite was, how did you know? How did you know I was exploiting that content in the game? I had a player come up to me and say, like, well, how did you know I was cheating in the game? One of the best things, the Mines of Moria expansion for Lord of the Rings Online, at the time I was a very intense player of Lord of the Rings Online. I actually did many quests and many raids in the Mines of Moria expansion. I've been involved in Lord of the Rings Online well before the alpha phase of the actual launch. I've been involved in launch and went all the way through like Rise of Rohan expansion and up towards the beginning of the new Helm's Deep expansion. So when Moria came out, one of my jobs was to basically play with pugs, player groups, and figure out what exploits they were doing. They'd be like, okay guys, we're going up to this next quest. And I think I should let you know, I have a shortcut, should we do it? And I was like, yes. You should totally do it. So they were like, let's do it. So they go ahead and they do this thing, and you know, it like bypassed 20 minutes of a raid or quest or whatever. I mean, they're like, don't tell the GMs. And I'm like, don't worry, I won't. I've been writing it down in an Excel document the entire time. So the next day I'd end up submitting a bug, and the bug would be like this giant 12-step repro thing where it'd be like, here's how you exploit this entire raid. It's really amazing. You'd be like, how did you know? How did you know how to exploit? That's pretty amazing. Did you know that the GMs figured it out at the same time we did? That was pretty incredible. And they would actually talk in voice chat because they didn't know that we could snoop on voice chat. So we'd be listening to them chatting, and they're like, hey guys, we can't talk in chat in regular text because they can see that. We have to talk in voice chat. And I'm like, pray tell, continue. So the next morning, like a bunch of us are doing it too, because like we're playing our games. One thing you guys might not know about customer service is that when you're in customer service or support or whatever, you're always actually playing your games. So it's actually one of the few teams that like your job is playing the game, figuring out what people do. We're actually your biggest advocates within, usually your biggest advocates within online games, because we're the ones that go over to developers and we're like, your shit's fucking broke, okay? Like, QA tells you it's broke. I'm telling you, I ran it last night, and players are mad. They're not just mad, they're mad. Like, that's Boston for mad. That's, I can tell you, Turbine being in Boston, having lived in Boston for many years, there's mad, and there's Irish mad. And Irish mad is what a lot of players get, and they hate on you pretty bad. So anyway, you know, one of the favorite examples was, say you have a nice ecosystem here. The ecosystem is the world, it's Earth, it's very nice and stable. This is you exploiting. You're the fucking sun right here, okay? So normally the entire ecosystem of all online games are the Earth. That is literally your account right there, is the sun. And they'd be like, well, I don't understand. I only did a little, and I don't really know how you knew it was me. And I'm like, well, you know, it could be because you were 97% of all quest completions in the last 24 hours on your one account. And the crazy thing too is they would send an appeal after that, and they'd be like, you send them all this info. You send them basically an Excel spreadsheet that's like, hey, here's a pivot table. Here's all the people who are normal. This giant bar is you. And they're like, well, I disagree with that. I think you should let me back in the game. I was just being a clever player. And I'm like, you are a clever player. You're still banned, though. So, one thing you guys may not hear much about, because like all the other stuff is pretty much in the game, fraud and chargebacks. This is one of my favorite pet peeves. I actually ran the fraud and chargeback team for 2.5 years at Warner Brothers. And really, fraud and chargebacks exist for one reason, and that's if your credit card gets stolen, you can call it Visa or MasterCard. Visa or MasterCard would be like, okay, we'll refund you the money, and then we'll go penalize the merchant, because the merchant's the one that allowed a fraudulent credit card transaction to go through. This is really painful for video game customers, because in any industry this isn't done. Like, you go to Amazon, you order a TV, Amazon's like, oh, we'll ship you a TV. Oh, wait, you said your credit card name was Jonathan Blow, and your name is Janet. That's not correct.
Yeah.
And they won't ship you the TV, except that when you play an online game, you get your stuff instantaneously. So what it's come down to is you nerf someone's class and they charge back everything. I have seen people charge back $1,500 of purchases over 3 years because we nerfed their pants. That's it. We turned their pants from an uber-killing, dwarf-slaying machine into something that is best used for hauling rocks around. And in response, they decided that they were going to charge back all $500 or $1,000 or $1,500. Sometimes it's legit. I actually ended up calling a guy one time, so he ended up charging back $1,300. Now consider this. Consider what you spend $1,300 on. You spend $1,300 on a new computer. You spend $1,300 on a nice vacation. Or if you are an 8-year-old child, you spend $1,300 on potions because you are terrible at playing a video game. So I called up this father, and this father was like, I ended up charging back those charges. I'm really sorry. He was actually really contrite. He's like, I'm really sorry. The problem is, my wife will actually slaughter me if she finds out that I ended up spending $1,300 on a video game in a month. And I was like, I understand, what happened? He's like, well, my 8-year-old, he hasn't really hit the money section of his textbook yet, so he doesn't really understand the concept of money yet. So he thought $20 was charged just like that $20 was all you had to pay forever. And that's it. $20, that's it. And he's like, I don't think it really occurred to him that $20 could snowball into $1,300 when you did it 650 times. So I ended up refunding him his money, but a lot of people, I had a guy who came in, and I think you guys will appreciate this. A guy came in and he lent his fiancée his credit card. And then he decided that he was going to charge back all the charges on his fiancée credit card because I was obviously too dumb to realize that he'd lent his fiancée his credit card. So I figured it out and I said, that's fine, you can charge back your money, but I will ban every single one of your accounts, including your fiancé's account. And he was like, whoa. I don't care if you ban my account. I know that for $500 is what he was charging back. For $500, I'm okay with getting my account banned. But if you ban my fiancé's account, I'm not getting married next year. So I was like, that's unfortunate because your credit card's on both accounts, and I'm gonna have to ban both of them. And he was like, well, I can't allow that. That's not right, because do you want to ruin a marriage? And I was like, well, I do actually. If it's $500 back to me, maybe. I'm not sure. So I actually caught him in email where he was like, oh, I totally authorized my girlfriend to have, or my fiancée to have my credit card in my account. And I ended up sending that back to his bank. And I was like, hey, guess what? How's it going, MasterCard? This guy has totally been scamming you this entire time, saying that he didn't make these charges, but in reality, he gave his girlfriend or his fiancé's credit card. And you should probably shut this down. So he actually ended up getting his credit card canceled, which I felt a little bad about. And then I went home and slept on it, and I was like, I don't feel that bad about it. This guy totally deserved it. But this is really one of the things that you probably won't hear about that often in online games, but it's actually a big problem. I was actually talking to one of the guys from Kixeye. They ended up running a program. They started seeing these types of issues. Like, I've seen this all the time. Fraud and chargebacks are nasty. I highly encourage you to not do them because someone like myself will be on the other end. It just creates a giant pain in the ass for us. It hurts a lot. You will end up unhappy because your account will be banned. I will end up unhappy because I spent 2 hours on your case. The developer will be unhappy because they lost money. Everyone's unhappy. The bank, I say the bank's not happy, the bank doesn't give a shit. Let's be honest about this. The bank gets their money no matter what. The only company, and you guys will hate this, but the only company that actually benefits the merchant is PayPal. PayPal is awful for you as a consumer. PayPal is my best buddy as a merchant. It's amazing. I'm like, this item was totally delivered. And they're like, you know what? I believe you. We're not giving the money back to the player. And I'm like, fucking right you aren't. That's right. They totally bought that. I love you guys. And meanwhile, Visa and MasterCard are like, we don't know what an online game is. So I'm not sure that we can refund you. But we're totally giving you money back. We're just going to shaft this consumer instead, or shaft the merchant instead. Anyway, on top of that, hacking. Hacking's fun. Oh, man. So I pulled this straight from Wikipedia. Hacking seeks and exploits weaknesses in computer security. By the way, that's a direct quote from Wikipedia. Mainly, you'll be thinking of black or gray hat hackers. Black hat hackers, which I was from the period of 1994 to 1998, when I was a child. Just want to point that out there. I was not 18. I was under 18. I turned 18 in 1998, which is why I stopped, and you'll never hear about it. Black and gray hat hackers love to do things like boot you offline. If you're old enough to remember things like AOL 95, AOL did not parse HTML. It was pretty amusing because you could bomb someone with HTML and knock them offline. You could spam chat channels. You could, I can't even tell you how many times I dropped literal ASCII macros of spam into chat channels just because I was 13 and really dumb. And it was pretty amazing. But hacking is gone really more sophisticated these days. Infrastructure hacking, which is physical and virtual infrastructure of a company. When you think about like Sony getting hacked, that was the infrastructure hack. Personal, when they actually access your information, they find out your stuff. Personal stuff is caused by compromised lists of usernames and passwords or friendly hacks. I had a player who was, and I feel really bad about this is not a funny story. He was 14, he was actually groomed by a 30-year-old so that the 30-year-old could eventually pose to become their friend and actually ended up chatting with them and having a great time with them, having good conversations. Ended up actually sharing account information, not the 30-year-old to the 14-year-old, the 14 to the 30-year-old. The 14-year-old thought this was their best friend and they had a great time. The 30-year-old just one day just logged in and stole all their stuff. Everything. Transferred it off the 14-year-old's account to the 30-year-old's account. 14-year-old's devastated. Just devastated. Actually ended up opening a ticket. Since that was one of my specialties, I took the ticket and found out what was going on. And I was like, you know what, this is disgusting, is what it is. Like you're sitting here manipulating a 14-year-old child and you're a 30-year-old man. This is just absolutely disgusting. So I ended up banning a 30-year-old child. And he had the nerve, a 30-year-old child, yeah, 30-year-old man. He had the nerve to appeal the suspension. He's like, you can't prove I did it. I was like, oh, really? So the time that your individual IP, which I, by the way, have Google Maps to your house, nice Subaru, wasn't you. And it's the same IP address you've been using for the last, 4 years. You're gonna pretend someone hacked into your home computer just to hack into a 14-year-old's machine to steal all their stuff and transfer it to your account? No. So it's really kind of distressing. What's even more distressing, though, is that, I don't know if you guys have ever heard about the RockU compromise. It happened about in 2010. RockU was a social games company, and they stored 31 million passwords in clear text. They were compromised, and from that, a security company called Imperva was logged into the Pirate Bay for the 2 hours that it was actually available on the Pirate Bay, downloaded all 31 million passwords and usernames, and they found out, guess what, the 5 most common passwords. I want to hear, raise your hand if you think you know what the most common password is.
Sex.
Nope.
Password.
Nope.
Password. Yeah.
Nope.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's on the list.
Fucking 0.8% of everyone had that password. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Change your luggage. Goddamn. That's. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. I was like, this is unbelievable. I could not believe that people had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what the second most common password was?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 was the second most common password, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the super complicated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2.4% of everyone in the Imperva password compromise had one of those 4 passwords. You know what that means? That means that you don't even have to guess. You basically just have one of those 4 or all 4 of those passwords, and you will get 1 out of 25 accounts. Someone in this room right now is changing their password. Right. They're like, oh shit, I gotta change that right now. I actually ended up mirroring this study with my own, I was pointing out it's completely anonymized, I ended up pulling passwords, completely anonymized passwords, about 300,000 or 400,000 of them, and ran my own statistical analysis on them when I was doing security work, and ended up finding basically the same thing. RockU had a lot of social, like music games and rhythm games and things like that, so it wasn't really the same correlation as like high fantasy or sci-fi games. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, still the most common password, which made me really despair for the future of humanity. I was like, really, even nerds don't think about something other than that? Password was up there, by the way. One of the worst things that came out of that was that the top 5,000 most common passwords were used in 20% of all accounts. Just think about that for a second. I will share you a tip that I have. I use a unique password with every product I sign up for, and it sounds very difficult to do because you think, how do I understand, how do I know what my unique password is? It's actually very simple. You have a core passphrase, you have something else like a connector, and you have the name of the site you're signing up for. So I'm very active on Reddit and Imgur and things like that, so when I log into Imgur, my account is core password, connector, Imgur, and that's it. And everything you do will be unique. It will be a unique, long password, very difficult to crack. Every single password will be unique. It's relatively easy to remember. You don't have to worry about some bullshit like another, forum company or forum website getting hacked, and all of a sudden your password for your fucking Bank of America account is out there. Which, by the way, when I first started doing this work, I was like, I gotta change my Bank of America password. What's that?
Too long a password, wasn't it?
Too long password. I'm very careful to keep my password 16 characters or under.
Oh, okay.
Because some places will restrict you to 16 characters for code reasons.
Because I couldn't fit one because Bank of America was too long, so I had to use BOA.
I use BOA as well.
Yeah.
Do we have the same password?
Unless you're connected.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 FOR BOA. How much money do you have in your account?
Negative 20K.
Oh shit. Don't log into mine. Well, I just hit the bar today though, so it's going to be considerably lower. I haven't expensed any of my costs yet, so we'll see if my CEO accepts any of my expenses. Okay, so we'll skip through this. The infrastructure stuff, I can't talk about too much about this. During Q&A, if you guys want to ask questions, I'll try to answer some stuff. But infrastructure is fucking dumb because all of us are compromised because we're idiots. Basically, you get a rootkit on your machine. The most common way to get a rootkit on a machine, you allow uploads. So I have seen many forum software packages that say, you can upload images, but why don't you upload anything else? Let's upload a fucking executable onto a web machine. That sounds great. Let's upload an executable called hackme.exe, and we'll just go ahead and run that. SQL injection is one of the more common ones. SQL injection, basically you inject a database script into your website. A great example is, so I actually saw this happen. It was a SQL script that would run and look up your account information, but it wasn't protected. So someone was like, look at my account information, and while you're at it, return everything in this database. That'd be great. So you actually end up embedding a SQL statement within a SQL statement. So someone was like, I want to see everything in the database. And then when you're done with that, if you could, return my password request information. That'd be great. So they actually ended up pulling I think it was 7 million records for passwords and emails and everything like that. It made me very sad. PHP and Apache out of date. A lot of people use web servers based in PHP and Apache. Keeping them out of date is a great way to get your ass hacked. And then Microsoft patching. Jesus fucking Christ. The number of servers I see, web servers are like, I'm running Windows 2003. And I'm like, that's awful. You shouldn't do that. Windows Server 2008 is a great example. So Windows Server 2008, Apache, PHP, MySQL, and MS SQL, all of those have critical security updates. If you are in this audience and you run a web server or you run a system that has a web server, update your web infrastructure. While I cannot talk about anything that may have happened in the past, I can tell you that this is very important and it will lead to bad things happening. So I'm going to get a little deep right now. So y'all have been laughing, and you're very, very kind for laughing at my jokes and my stories. I'm gonna dig a little deeper right now, and that's actually going to be a little hard for me. And it's the first time I've talked about such a large crowd. But I want to talk about the personal cost of all these issues. So we've talked about harassment and abuse. We've talked about hacking. We've talked about exploitation. But one of the things that isn't really talked about is that when you work in this stuff and you work as both a player and as an employee, work is a persistent stressor. This is something that's actually really hard for those of us that work in the online games industry. I actually ended up in 2011 having to go to the hospital to get some serious diagnostic stuff done because I thought something was actually physically wrong with me. What was different was that it was actually personal stress colliding with professional stress, which ended up causing some very serious physical side effects and symptoms to me. It took a while for me to figure that out. And it was actually kind of cool because I got to see like a barium swallow, so that was something like on my bucket list. I was like, yes, put radioactive material inside my body and watch it go through. Check. So that was pretty fun. But like work is a persistent stressor, and when you guys go through these things as a player that's hacked, as a player that's harassed, as a player that's abused, this is stress that acts upon you. And whether you acknowledge it or not, this tends to be something really nasty that happens to you. And it's not good, and you shouldn't stand for it. Stress is not good on your body. When you have personal stress, like I had a lot of family stress at the time, I had a lot of professional stress at the time. If you all feel something similar, then go talk to a counselor. Go talk to a doctor. It's just something it's not just about the game industry. If you're in the medical profession, if you're in the rapid response and crisis management profession, if you're in the hospitality profession, or you're in like customer service or retail, like that's nasty. I used to work retail. I used to have people come up to me and be like, your product is shit and you are shit. And I was like, I'm not shit. Product may be shit. I'm not shit. It's really pretty serious. I had dealt with a lot of self-esteem and self-worth issues. You will not hear this outside of this talk. Every online company I've ever worked with has a suicide policy. And I don't mean a suicide policy for employees, although they could probably use one. I mean a suicide policy for your players. I actually had, I'm very fortunate, I only had one. I had a player who was in crisis. And the player was very upset and had nowhere outside of the game to go. They had a very shitty home life. They had no real friends they felt they could talk to. And so I was the one that took the ticket. Ticket came in, so I'm not feeling well, I'm not having a good time in the game, help me out. So I ended up chatting with them. And they were like, I'm in crisis, I'm about killing myself. And so here I am, a customer service rep, granted a senior customer service rep. I've done a lot of customer service in the past, but I'm literally talking over chat with this person. And they were saying like, I don't trust my parents, I don't trust my family, I don't trust my friends. Here I am reaching out to you as a customer service employee, and that is a serious weight to place on someone's shoulders. I ended up trying to help her out, talking her through it. I ended up calling the crisis and response line and her local precinct. I'm very glad, by the way, at the time that everyone had a credit card attached to their account, so I was able to figure out where she lived and call the local 911, say here's her address, someone's in crisis, you should go check them out. The problem was that our policy at the time was to ban them after you were done helping them. Because what they needed was they needed intervention outside of what we could offer them. I am not a licensed counselor. I do have crisis management experience, and I do have a lot of like personal experience. Like I'm CPR certified, I'm AED certified, I'm first aid certified. I did a lot of like first responder certification later on when I was younger. But it doesn't mean you're a counselor. It doesn't mean you can help people out. So our policy was always like help them out as much as you can, and then ban them, because they don't need the game right now. They need family, they need help, they need professional help. So I don't actually know what happened to her. She never came back in the game again. And I like to think that she left the game and she never came back because she was getting help. But I don't know. She was half the country away. And I've talked to a bunch of people in the industry about this, and it's, like I said, it's something that every online game company has. You will not hear it outside of this talk. This is the deepest, nastiest part of being an online game representative. And when you talk about exploitation and hacking and harassment and abuse, those are all separated. They have an enemy. The enemy is someone that you can take action on. And at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, You can feel good because you took action on the enemy. This person is not an enemy. This person is someone who needs help. And it was really rough on me. And it's been really rough on a lot of people I've talked to. It comes down to a lot of the same issues that you see with, you feel like you're under fire in customer service. I use this because I know many feels, bro, that a lot of people have in the game industry. It's very rough. You see things like casual racism and sexism. I've been on 4chan for a decade. I have seen the worst the internet has to offer. I have seen everything from pedophilia to necrophilia to war disasters and war crimes to shock sites. I am fundamentally broken when it comes to knowing what is offensive and what is not offensive. This is something I hope all of you can take away from this talk, is that we are broken as game developers and game consumers, because when you take your culture outside of PAX, outside of Gen Con, outside of San Diego Comic-Con, you realize how disassociated you are from regular life. Someone could show me Tub Girl. I can tell you how many lemon parties I've been to. And I think it's funny as shit. I'm like, bring it on. In fact, this morning we had the panel, which was 6-second game pitches, and one of my 6-second game pitches was 2 girls, 1 quap. And the way I pitched it was, it's QWOP plus 1 special button. And everyone thought that was funny as shit. Everyone was like, that's great. That would sell. Like, you can put that on the App Store. Not the Apple App Store, but the Android App Store, definitely. They don't even have a review process. It's later on when they're like, there are boobs in this game? No wonder it's selling so well. But casual racism and sexism is a big deal. It's actually, it comes along with self-esteem and self-worth issues. It comes along with depression. I can't tell you how many of my coworkers have dealt with depression, have dealt with stress, have dealt with things like crunch. I'm very lucky in that I work in online games because everything is crunch. Welcome to online games. Every day is a release day, especially when you work in operations like I did, where on average you would have 9 projects running. And chances are good that 2 or 3 days out of your 5-day work week, something would be released. And so you end up having you're perpetually in crunch, and you end up getting depressed without knowing it, which is really weird. I'm very lucky in that I've never been depressed. I've been really stressed, but I've never faced depression. Some of my friends have. We were very lucky that we had a really good insurance program and a really good counseling program. But it all contributes to things like industry churn. Y'all wonder why people leave this industry? Because it's fucking hard. It's unbelievably hard. When you want to talk about why people make online games, I take a look at Bethesda making Elder Scrolls Online, and I'm like, good luck. And it's not tongue-in-cheek. I actually wish them the best of luck because it is one of the most difficult things you can do in this industry. Working with you guys, and that's not a dig towards our players, you all have an absolute expectation and you should demand quality from your game developers. But it is really hard for us to deliver on that because sometimes we're underfunded, sometimes we're hurting, sometimes we have other projects we're working on, sometimes we just can't deliver on what we want to deliver for you guys, and it's rough. You see industry churn, but that's not to say there isn't a bright other side of that. One of the things I always tell my new employees, I run a support team in addition to all my other work, there's always someone else on the other side of the computer. I want you to take this back after this talk. Whenever you harass someone, there's someone else on the other side of the computer. They may be total fucktards, but they are worthy of some small modicum of respect after you harass them. Devs and players, 2 sides, same coin. I put that in there just to let you guys know that I'm one of you. I've played video games forever. I have been involved in game industry and game development for a decade now. It's one of those things where, I feel you. When you guys are angry, I'm angry. I'm your advocate. Sometimes people forget that. But, you have to remember that people can be assholes and saints in the same day. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen someone be like, you know what? Fuck you. Fuck your game. Fuck you personally. Fuck everyone you know. And then they turn around the next day and they're like, oh, you don't know how to do that quest? I know how to do that quest, let me help you out. I had a player submit a 978-page ban appeal to me one time. I told this earlier in the customer service talk, 978 pages, He wrote out a paragraph of profanity, decided that was not enough. Copied it, pasted it, 4 pages long, decided still not enough. Copied the 4 pages, pasted 100 pages of that, decided, you know what? It's not a big enough middle finger yet. Copied 100 pages, pasted 978 pages worth, sent it to my Outlook inbox. My Outlook fucking crashed when I tried to open it. I had to hit Control-A to copy it all and paste it into Word. Word crashed! I didn't know what to do. It finally loaded. I saw the page count go 100, 200, 400, 900, 978. I was like, I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. Like, I ended up unbanning him too, because I was like, you know what, it deserves some kind of response. You know, like, don't do it again. But I was amused. I actually ended up forwarding it to the rest of the support team to see what they did. So they're like, what's this? Oh, my Outlook crashed. These are the same guys that are like really passionate in your community. They just get really, invested in it. It's really funny as hell when they come through. I ended up having, so one time, one thing you guys may not know is that we sleep. I know it's lies. So you'll have to ask Sapience, the community manager for Lord of the Rings Online. He'll tell you a very different version of the story. But he went to sleep. Serafina went to sleep, another one of our community managers. I was asleep. A bunch of other people were asleep. This guy decided this was the perfect time, 2 a.m. Boston time, to post dicks. So he posted not 1, not 2, but 7 pages of penises on the forums. And we came in that morning. I actually got a phone call from one of my coworkers, and he was like, Alex, you gotta log into the computer. It's amazing. It's Dick Christmas. And I was like, awesome, let me check it out. So I log in and I was like, dicks everywhere. And I was like, it was very impressive too, because he didn't even deviate to boobs or anything. It was just straight dicks the entire time. And it was actually kind of classy. It was from like, none of them were really crass. It was always like this nice camera angle, just like a filter on the image. That was obviously a connoisseur, and I was like, this is pretty impressive. But it leads to the next point, which is like, your actions have consequences. That guy got banned. He didn't just get banned. We like banned his entire region. We were like, I don't want any chance of this guy coming back in the game. We should like go find him and break his computer, because it's pretty impressive. It actually took like, I think 2 hours to clean up. Because we kept banning him. He came back and he posted their dick. We're like, enough! I have seen enough testicles today. I'm done. I'm just trying to have breakfast. And then the last thing you guys can do is have fun. Like, this is like, it's something I tell every game developer and every game player. I'm like, you gotta have fun. This is an industry about having fun. You gotta have fun. If you're not having fun in the game, please don't take it out on us. Just stop playing. Because that's the best thing you can do, is stop playing. I have played games that I haven't had fun at, and I'll provide targeted feedback back to the developers. I'll be like, I didn't have fun for these reasons. Not like, I didn't have fun, so I'm bombing you. We've actually had one bomb threat that I'm aware of. And this is, I don't want to say it's a funny story, but it's a story. So, we had a player who's banned. His ban appeal was, I'm going to bomb your building. I hope I don't have to say that this is a very terrible way to get unbanned, because we called the FBI, and the FBI showed up at his house and arrested him, which I was like, no, you need to arrest him. You just need, like, I hope you like shake him down a little bit and just take his computer, maybe like, I don't know, like hit his computer once or twice. They arrested him and they were like, you can't have a bomb threat against a business. And he was like, I was just joking. It's like going to SeaTac Airport here and being like, hey TSA, guess what I have in my package? Nitroglycerin. And TSA is like, guess what we have? Naked Pack Down. You ready? Yeah. So it's like, we had the same thing too, where, I just want you guys to have fun when you play our games. I've had 4 death threats, personally, which is, I think, 4 too many. I mean, like 1 maybe. And I was telling people earlier, you know, like only one I really took serious. Like we all take them seriously, but there's serious and then there's really serious. Really serious was when a guy was in Pennsylvania and it was legitimately possible he could drive to Boston and find us. And we ended up calling the cops, called dispatch on him. You call cops on every one of these. Like anytime someone, well, unless it's super dumb. Like if you're just talking to someone on a ticket and you're like, I can't help you, and they're like, I'm gonna kill you. You're like, oh, you get banned for 3 days. You know, it's not. This guy was like, I'm gonna find where you are. I'm gonna find your address. I'm gonna take a knife, I'm gonna cut you. I'm gonna cut you a lot. And I was like, that's a legit threat. All right, so called the cops, called dispatch. Dispatch was like, oh, we got a cop on the ground, let's transfer you there. I was with my manager at the time. The manager was like, we got this. We're gonna get this bastard. So, call the cops, we call 1 cop. It's like bumfuck Pennsylvania or something. This guy was like, who do you got? And of course, this is an idiot. Like, no one who threatens you is not an idiot. Like, anyone who does a death threat is a fucking idiot, inevitably. So it's no surprise he had a credit card on file with us with this full information. So like, his name is John Doe. He lives at 123 Fake Street. And you should go talk to him. He called us at like 2:32 p.m. And the guy was like, John Doe. I'll deal with it. And we were like, oh shit. He has a history. So the cop went and talked to him. The guy, John Doe, of course, was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't even know what Lord of the Rings is. I don't even know. Did George R. Martin read it? And the cop was like, just don't call him again, okay? Like, seriously, I really don't want to arrest you, okay? So he called us back up and he was like, if he calls you again, just let me know and I'll arrest him. That was actually one of the funnier ones, which is kind of depressing. I had one guy show up, so my boss is, so my boss is an ex-cop, former boss, was an ex-cop, currently a lawyer, practicing law, and was a director in the company, and is huge. Like, not just small, but huge, and not just tall, but huge. Like, it's a big dude. And he would always joke about having guns in his car, and none of us could tell if he was serious or not. We're like, he's an ex-cop. He'd be like, let me break out my AR-15. Well, you don't have an AR-15. Do you? Do you have ammo for it? So he actually ended up standing in the building one time. This guy was like, I'm coming to your building. And, oh no, you know what? Forget that story. This story's not as funny. I'm going to tell you a different story. A story about how another example of crazy, though. You know what? I'm just going to skip this really quick. By the way, I just want to point out at the bottom right, I've got this from Wikipedia. The actual title of the bottom right photo is Adults Playing. For reals, that was what Wikipedia captured it as. I thought that was amazing. Okay, before I tell you a story, you guys get stories afterwards. I promise. I talked to the enforcers. Maybe we'll have some extra time to talk about stories. I'm going to just give you a case study about how broken you are. Try not to laugh. The backstory behind these was that we were testing the filter of a children's game. By children, I mean 6 to 9-year-olds. This was a company that claimed their filter was amazing, and they were COPPA compliant. In case you don't know what COPPA is, Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. It protects, or is supposed to protect children from nasty predators. It's supposed to make sure that children are protected from the general public. So we decided to test it. We actually spent an hour. A large proportion of the population of our audience, audience being the people at the company, decided to participate. We were going to break this filter. So we decided to see what was filtered and what wasn't. Balls! I could eat them every day, straight through the filter. That was great. Custard cannon. One of my favorites. One Jingle My Bells. That was good. By the way, I want to point out that at least 10 of these came from one person. We actually have around 1,600 phrases that made it through the filter, and he's responsible for at least 800 of them. We actually had to tell him to stop. We were like, you're done. You're out. Like, you cannot keep on breaking the filter. We'll get to your question in a minute. Say you are my candy man. Again, keep in mind that this is 6 to 9-year-olds. Moist, and by the way, that's a statement from one of my fellow developers. This is just a disgusting word. No one will ever use moist in real conversation. That cake is delicious, not moist. I want to eat your eyeballs. Straight through the filter. Blanket drill, which when you first look at it, you're like, all right, you know, who wants to make a drill out of a blanket? And then later on, you're like, oh, I get it. Horizontal polka. When I first saw that, I came home. My wife was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Horizontal polka." And she was like, "I don't get it. Is it because I'm Polish?" And I was like, "Forget it." Touch my egg roll. Pet your kitty, which was great because who doesn't want to pet kitties? I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. Pinch a loaf. Way funnier than it should be. Chest sloppers. So that's actually a substitute for one that was called clam slamming, which one of my coworkers said, at least it sounds consensual. You know? I thought that was funny as hell. I was like, I can't put that in there, but I'm glad I mentioned it. Delete your Win Systems folder. Again. 6 to 9-year-olds, they don't know what the fuck a Win Systems folder is. They were like, I don't know. This guy on the internet told me to do it. He said performance would increase. It's like your computer is definitely running faster without Windows. That's great. Heat-seeking moisture missile. Followed shortly thereafter by intercontinental ballistic heat-seeking moisture missile. What's under the sink? Again, very awful because it was followed shortly thereafter by drink what's under the sink. And by the way, same guy. This is the guy who had like 800 things. Followed by Santa Isn't Real, which I didn't put up here because I thought that was just too awful. I was like, I can't believe you said that. I can't believe it wasn't filtered too. He was also like Easter Bunny deals crack, and we were like, God damn, Matt, like stop, seriously. And then my favorite, beef whistle. Which I actually put on the Cards Against Humanity panel that was down there. They had the suggestions, and I was like, beef whistle belongs in Cards Against Humanity. As someone who plays Cards Against Humanity many times, and I'm very disappointed I didn't get the bigger, blacker box. Beef whistle was, like, I hope that enters public vocabulary, just because actually our lead designer at my current job decided that was just too funny to keep in the talk. He was like, you can't have that in there. But I'm laughing for too long. And I was like, why? Because I want to play the beef whistle? And he was like, more like the beef ocarina. And we like high-fived across cue walls. It was pretty amazing. Anyway, so now it's time for questions and stories. I hope you guys can come up. You have any questions, stories about weird, crazy shit that's happened, enforcement. I am one of the few people who will actually tell it to you straight. The customer service talk that happened earlier today, they did tell it to you straight, but they only had like 10 minutes where they talked about the crazy shit they've seen. I love talking about the crazy shit I've seen. So please start lining up if you have any questions or stories. Meanwhile, I will regale you with my own story until you guys line up. That is a story about how, oh shit, I forgot it. I should have told it right away. We'll go straight to questions and stories. I feel awful now. It'll come to me later on.
Okay, I guess maybe after this question, just a quick one. You mentioned like connectors and imagers. What do you mean by that? Like,
what's that?
Like connectors and imagers?
Oh, Reddit and imagers. So, wait a minute. Are you asking the same question?
Password.
Yeah.
Oh, password. Jesus. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, so the way it works is that if you want to have like an impervious password, of course me talking about it now makes it less impervious. But you can have a core password. Say if your password is ABCDEFG, you can then have a connector phrase, which could be like your own initials, it could be chair, it could be lamp, it's whatever you want, and then the name of the website you're signing up for.
but the connector is like always unique to the site. Or just
It's always the same. So like if my password is like chair, and I'm signing up for the Penny Arcade forums, then my password might be like chair4, F-O-R-P-A, for Penny Arcade. And if I want to sign up for Reddit, it might be chair4 Reddit. If I want to sign up for Meatspin, it might be like chair4. To be honest, I'm not signing up for Meatspin, so I already have an account.
So I guess like the connector is part of your kind of master password. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's part of your password. It's basically a way to keep you building like a complex, unique password every time you use it. So that when someone compromises one database, they don't compromise your login everywhere. So like, and plus like my luggage, it's always safe. It's pretty nice. What you got?
Alright, so as someone who's played EVE Online for a little while,
Yes.
just given the amount of, how should I put it, player freedom allowed in that game,
Yes.
what do you have to do to get banned from EVE Online?
Oh, that's a great question. Profanity towards a GM is a great way to get banned. The number of times I saw someone be like, we totally took that starbase, and the GM's like, you didn't. And they're like, fuck you, GM, and fuck your parents. And then it was like 4 lines, and they're like, yeah, fuck you. Like, they took time to think like, you know what? Another fuck would really bring home how dissatisfied I am. That's a great way to get banned. Hacking, great way to get banned. Also, if you abuse an exploit and not tell CCP about it, it's another great way to get banned. But really, like a lot of the social manipulation stuff, oh man, you'd never get banned for that. I had my entire alliance dissolve because my alliance leader had an affair with one of our alliance members. And he was like traveling across country lines to go like hang out with her and everything. So of course the logical solution to this was to kick out the entire fucking corporation that she was part of out of our alliance, thus precipitating a giant, disastrous diplomatic situation. It's pretty bad. I mean, yeah, you know what? You have to do a lot to get banned from EVE Online. I mean, you have to really screw CCP pretty bad to get banned. Even then, you might get permabanned. I'd say hacking is number 1. Number 2 is like pissing off a GM, and number 3 is probably like, I mean, if all you do is spout profanity, you're probably get banned for a day or 2.
So this actually happened to 2 of my friends, and I'm just curious how many other people this happened to in the audience here. Sitting at home playing on their Xbox and PS3. Happily just playing online, but not plugged into the chat channel.
Sounds like a lot of ban appeals I get.
Just bitching them out of it and telling them like how much they hate them and how much they fuck their mother and all that sort of shit. And 20 minutes into it, having somebody say, "We can hear you," and realizing that either the Connect or PS3i was still plugged in.
Oh yes. So I actually, so one of the fun things I have ever done is like when you would use in-game chat, like not Ventrilo or TeamSpeak or something, you could listen to what people are saying. So like listening to people's tickets, like answering them on tickets, and then listening to their voice chat with like, I'm talking to GM right now. We're totally gonna get this raid completed for us. It's gonna be amazing. And then they're like, well, hold on, I gotta talk to them back. And I'm like, hey, do you need help right now with the raid? And they're like, oh yeah, the raid totally bugged out. And they're in voice chat, they're like, it didn't bug out. We're gonna get the loots. It's gonna be amazing. And then I'm like, you're not gonna get the loots in chat. And they're like, they can hear us. So yeah, you can totally do that. It's pretty amusing. Like I actually don't know that much about Xbox, but if I was a customer, like specifically in abuse and exploitation and like nasty situation rep for Xbox, I would totally tap into people's connects. I don't think they can do that. I just want to point out, I don't know if they can do that.
This was the case for me.
If you're busy being naked in front of your connects, I don't know if they can do that. I'm just saying, if they could, they might be doing it.
Well, no, this is just a case where the other players here because they forgot that Connect automatically has the microphone turned on all the time. And you know, when you're at home in the privacy of your home, sometimes you say things you wouldn't say in public.
Absolutely.
And
I tell my cat to fuck off all the time. So that's pretty good. I actually like that a lot. The Kinect is one of those weird, bizarro things. Like I know when Xbox One was announced, a lot of people were like, the Kinect is going to be the NSA, and they're going to be listening to everything. And I'm like, you don't understand. Microsoft does not care. One thing you guys should realize is that voice chat takes forever to parse through. Every time I'm talking, so like if you want to listen to me make some kind of incendiary statement during my talk right now, you have to listen to the entire thing. It's really painful. So if you're talking in voice chat and you're worried about someone listening to voice chat, people who are listening right then, you should be rightfully concerned about because your players may report you for being a racist, ignorant asshole. But if you're concerned about Microsoft finding out about it, A, they have to have the storage space to store all that chat, and B, someone has to listen to it, and C, they're not going to do that. So it's just a lot of time. Like having talked to the Microsoft guys, I'm like, do you have guys to do that? They're like, please. No way. We barely have time to read our chat logs. So
I was wondering how important are numbers actually in passwords?
So numbers are awful in passwords, to be honest. I'm gonna be completely and utterly blunt here. The only thing that saves you on passwords is length. So when you end up creating a password and you have someone say, create a password that has a capital letter and number, it is better than having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as your password, but it is not ideal. So most of my passwords vary between 12 and 16 characters in length. That's because if you try to brute force them, it will take a long time to brute force them. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be unhacked. That's why I use unique passwords for every location I go to. That means that if I do get hacked somewhere else, it's unlikely they'll hack one of my other locations. One thing you guys should know is that there are tables of passwords and usernames out there. If you want to take a look on Pirate Bay or other less scrupulous locations, you can find rainbow tables of MD5 hashes. You can find, if you don't know what MD5 hash is, that's fine, just look it up later on in Google. You can find tables of cracked passwords and usernames, and you may find your password and username on there. What saves you on the internet is anonymity, that no one wants to find you. If I stood out there today in the middle of PAX and I said, I will offer you $10,000 to hack my accounts, tomorrow they'll be hacked. The only thing that saves you is anonymity, and it is terrifying to think that. And it will take a leap of faith for you guys to sit there and think that the only thing saving you is that no one cares about you, but that is amazing. As soon as you get on front of anything in front of the public, people start caring, and they start hacking you, and they start listening to you, which is even worse. Like, I don't have a Twitter feed because I don't want my thoughts going out in public. Like, yeah, I have a public Twitter feed, like a corporate Twitter feed, but I can control myself when it comes to corporate chatter. When it comes to me being with my friends and family, I don't want that being on the internet. You know, it's pretty rough. And so, like, same thing with passwords. The only thing that saves you is anonymity. And ultimately, if your anonymity is compromised and people care, having long passwords that are difficult to crack, that are non-standard and unique, it's very hard. You guys will find it a pain in the ass to do. And most of you probably won't do it, but it is one of the few things that will actually help save you if you ever get compromised on another website. The number of times I've seen tickets from people saying, your systems are hacked because I'm hacked. And it turns out that it's because they were hacked on another website. It's pretty rough, and you should take steps to protect yourself in every case. Dual authentication, Blizzard's Authenticator, it's a great idea. If someone else has a dual authentication system, go for it. If you can use your phone to dual authenticate, go for it. I set up all my Google accounts, my PayPal account, a lot of other stuff. They all dual authenticate through my phone. If I don't have my phone with me, I probably shouldn't be logging into Google anyway, because I'm frankly tethered to my phone and I'm a device whore. So let's be honest here. But you know, that's one of the things you should really think about: a long password, unique password, and anonymity. That protects you.
What do you make of things like the League of Legends Tribunal trying to use social media kind of to do what you do? Do you think it's effective?
Oh my goodness. So League of Legends Tribunal. You had to open that up, didn't you?
It just seems like it's, you know, your thing.
The problem with League of Legends Tribunal is it's all fucking public. So this is hard. Because on the one hand, I like the idea of players policing themselves because it's similar to our personal idea of like a jury of your peers. You know, I'm not sure as an asshole you don't have a jury of assholes, but you know, a jury of like League of Legends players, okay. Actually, you know, I don't want to be tried by League of Legends players. But the idea of a jury of peers sounds very appealing, except that if it's just me and you, everything can be private. I take the privacy of our players incredibly seriously. When you get banned, no one will find out about it unless you tell them. So I'm very, very serious about the privacy of you guys as my players. And most of my friends who do this sort of work are equally serious. Tribunal does away with that. Tribunal has multiple people and multiple groups talking about what you did, when you did it, and what your public action is. And while the Judge Dredd in me like loves that, because I would love to go on Reddit in my forums and be like, you know, judge, jury, and then ban them and be like, executioner. You know, have it be very public. It'd be great. Like, personally, I'd get my jollies off on that. I think that'd be fantastic. But as a company, you lose that person as a customer. And just because someone is an asshole does not mean that they shouldn't be a customer of your game. I work for Game of Thrones right now, so like Game of Thrones is all about backstabbing and nastiness. EVE Online, all about backstabbing and nastiness. Just because you're an asshole and because you go over the line sometimes does not mean I don't want you as a customer. It just means that I need to tell you where the line is. And in fact, I never view banning as punishment, ever. Banning is education. So when you guys get warned and you guys get banned, it is education from me. In fact, I go out of my way to explain what you did wrong and why you did it. The tribunal does not do that necessarily. A tribunal punishes, it does not educate. And that is the biggest problem I have with it. I want to keep you guys as players. Even if you're a jerk, even if you're initially a jerk, sometimes you change, sometimes we need jerks. And like, keeping it private is a great way for you guys to save face. It's a great way for me to save face. It's a great way for you to come back and not have any judgment from your peers. And the tribunal does away with that. So on the one hand, I love the idea of like peer review and having a trial by your peers. On the other hand, it really concerns me. It concerns me that you will be forever maligned and forever made fun of by the rest of the community.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my first question is, did Turbine do any listening? And if so, my father is always spouting off these ideas of what he wants to see in the game on
Right.
voice chat
Right,
to anybody who will spend 30 minutes to listen.
right.
And then like 3 months later, it's suddenly implemented in DDO.
Well, I can tell you right now,
Like, they're listening.
I
Like,
can-
this is the 5th time this has happened.
I can tell you right now, the Dungeons & Dragons Online developers never listen, so, you know, it's just coincidence. No, it's actually one of the best things for you guys to do as players is to, like, make your voices heard. I am the associate producer for Disruptor Beam. Part of my job is prioritizing what we develop and why, and a big part of that is listening to what the community has to offer. I can tell you for certain that Turbine absolutely listens to the community and absolutely listens to what people are concerned about. The community management team there is fantastic. They are seriously concerned. Amanda Garreau is the community manager for DDO. She's amazing. Her and I go back, way, way back, and she absolutely gives a shit about the community. And the Aaron Campbell's the new executive producer there. He gives like maybe even 4 shits about the community. It's pretty impressive. That's like 2 chains. 2 chains sometimes comes out with like 3 chains, and that's when you're like, wow, it's a great concert. But yeah, so they do care. Voice chat, not so much. Forum posts, like if your father is bitching on voice chat, not to say your father's bitching, but I mean, if your father is complaining on voice chat, it probably means other players are complaining about it as well, and if they are, it's probably on the forums, which means it's being rolled up. Every day I listen to player feedback, every day I see ticket volumes, every day I see forum posts, and I get like barometers on the temperature of the community. All of that comes back to the developers, and they all incorporate that into the game, because if you guys aren't happy, we're not making money, and we're not happy. And frankly, like, making money is not even the most important thing for us. We want you guys to be happy so we can make games, because I know a lot of indie developers out there who aren't even giving a shit about making money. They just want to make a cool game that you guys love, which is fantastic. And I hope that you guys continue to do that, continue to bring it up. Tell your father to go ahead and post in the forums. Forums are a lot
He's
easier.
dyslexic, so that's not happening.
Maybe you can post in the forums for him. I don't know. But definitely that's a good way to make it.
He
Make
also
yourself
uses big words and confuses people.
heard. What's up?
Not too much. I was wondering if you had an all-time favorite game exploit.
Oh, yes, I do actually. I do have an all-time favorite game exploit. This comes from Dungeons & Dragons Online. It was hilarious because it involved an entire, like, I don't even know what's the word for like a group of gold farmers. Is it like a murder of gold farmers? Is it like a coterie of gold farmers? I don't know. A flock?
Flockworks.
A sweatshop. Oh, there you go. A sweatshop of gold farmers. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. There's a sweatshop of gold farmers hanging around the mailbox, and I was like, what are these motherfuckers doing? So I was logged in watching them, and I was like, I don't even understand what's going on. This is pretty funny. So I watched them for like an hour. I was like, oh, they're doing something with mail. I know they are, because they're right by the mailbox. So I'm watching them, and I see like their money just start fluctuating like crazy, like 12 million platinum to like -4 million. I'm like, what? That's not even possible. Like, how is that going on? And so I watched. Eventually, I figured it out, and I log into one of my GM characters, and I try to like replicate the exploit, because big part is like, you see an exploit going on, you gotta repro it. If you don't repro the exploit, you have no idea how to do it.
Yeah.
And like, bug report, a great way for a bug report to be closed, by the way, is just say something's broken. The worst bug report I've ever seen was a screenshot of a bird in Dungeons & Dragons Online, and the text of the bug report was, "What is this?" That stayed open for 4 years. The person who put it in was mocked ruthlessly for that. I've seen my fair share of awful bug reports. That one took the cake. Because it was hilarious, because there were comments in the bug report, and the comments were like, "This bug report is awful." And the next one was like, "This bug report is beyond awful." And the next one was like, "This bug report is hilarious." It got printed up and like stapled to the wall. It was like, "Don't do this, ever." Yeah, it was a bird. That was actually the worst thing about it. It was like, "What is this?" And the developer was like, "It's a bird." And we were just really far away, so it looked like a smudge, and you zoom in, and it's obviously, it has wings, fucking beak. So, anyway, the best exploit, so I'm watching this sweatshop of farmers wander around the mailbox, and I was like, "That's something going on here." So I eventually figured out they were duplicating items in the game. And the best part was that I had to call the manager of online operations at Turbine, which is the crisis management point for everything that goes on in the game, game related. So game related and infrastructure related, which I'll tell you next. And he was in Aruba on a beach. So I called him up and I was like, "Hey, the game's broken." And he was like, "Guess what? I can't hear you with the sound of my Mai Tai." Click! I was like, "Oh shit, here we go." So I had to call the executive producer and everyone else, and basically that was the first time I'd like have an all hands on deck that I organized. That was, at that time I was like 7 months in, so I was still feeling kind of new, and I was like, "Oh god, I don't know what's going on." So I had to like, explain to everyone. Eventually he called back in after he finished the Mai Tai. So he was like, "I'm back. I have a laptop. They have Wi-Fi in Aruba. Guess I can log in." So eventually got him in there. We got everyone banned. We cleaned up the issue, but man, it was funny as hell, because he definitely did not want to get that phone call. Yeah. It was like 10 in the morning, and he's drinking a Mai Tai at 10 in the morning, and I was like, "Damn, this guy's on vacation." Like, what's going on?
So what were they doing with mail to cause that?
I can't. I wish I could tell you, but I can't.
Okay, all right.
Because it could be used in another game.
Yeah.
So the other story about that, so we had, part of my job was in operations. I was an online operations manager for Warner Brothers, and online operations handled everything. I've handled hurricanes, I've handled tornadoes, I've handled earthquakes, I've handled power loss, I've handled 90-hour downtimes. I had the ceiling fall down because there was a bucket in the ceiling, and the bucket filled up with water because of a leak of the AC system. At 11:35 p.m. on Sunday, I get an email. The bucket fell through the ceiling. Next email was like, "I don't even know how to understand that sentence. Like, I don't get it." The third email was like, "A bucket full of water fell through the ceiling." And you're like, "That doesn't help. I still don't understand what's going on." So my boss was like, "Hold on, I need to call." So he gets on the phone. There's a bat phone at Turbine. So whenever the bat phone would ring, you have to answer Commissioner Gordon. And usually it was used because people like forgot their key. So they'd be like, "I'm outside." And we're like, "I'm sorry, what's the password?" Alfred will be out in a minute. But call the bat phone and we're like, "How bad is it?" And they're like, "A fucking bucket of water fell through the ceiling tiles and landed in the ground." We're like, "Well, how many more buckets are there?" Turns out when we had AC leakage, our landlord decided to throw buckets up instead of fixing the leak. So we didn't know how many, we still don't know how many buckets there were. We had one which fell through. I came in the next day and there was still like soggy floor tiles all over the ground, and I was like, "Wow, it was a big bucket." Like, I'm impressed. Wow, and it ruined like 7 computers. It was pretty amazing. Well, a bucket full of water fell on computers. What do you expect? Like,
7?
yeah, it was pretty impressive. But it was funny as hell too. Because that's actually, if you ever talk to someone from Turbine, just talk to them about the bucket incident, like the bucket through the ceiling, and they'll be like, "We never knew how many buckets there were. It's unknown." Actually, after we moved out of that space, the roof collapsed, which was pretty amusing because we were like, "Wow, I'm really glad we moved." It was like that winter, like snow collapsed the roof, and we're like, "Wow, that would have been like 12 computers." It's like 3 buckets. That's amazing. So yes. Sorry, I can't tell you any more detail about the exploit.
Yeah, for sure.
Or I have to kill you, so. I ban you from life. Would be pretty good.
Nice.
Last question.
Okay, last question. Sorry.
Okay, this is more of a comment. I just want to say how important the patching really is. Because patching your systems is really key. I work on a search engine, and people that don't even care about your game will find you. Because exploits and things are just like a few clicks away. So it's just extremely important.
If you work in the online games industry or work in any industry that has any kind of infrastructure, please maintain your patching because, like I've said, this is pretty awful. Just don't do it.
Wait, that was a comment.
Okay, so one more question. Come on, man.
Or just more, you've been stalling on your story that you said you were going to remember.
I forgot it. All right, I'll tell you another story. Okay? It'll be like 3 minutes, okay? 3 minutes for the story? 3 minutes for the story, okay. So, we shit, I need to find an appropriate story now. Another 3 minutes.
You're only 18 minutes over so far.
I count 19, actually.
Oh, okay.
So a good story. I know you guys like stories. So I had a guy call up account support. This was before I wasn't in charge of account support, but account support was all on the phones. And that's my phone image, by the way. Hello. So he called up account support. He was on the phone for 45 minutes. 45 minutes of abusing our account support representative. Our account support representative didn't know what to do, so he just put him on mute and speaker. So we're all like, wow, this guy's going. He's just going. And he just started ranting. It was like 5 minutes of ranting. And every once in a while you take him off speaker, like, okay, well, is there anything I can help with? No. And so you're like, okay, click. And just put him back on mute and speaker, like, guy's still going. So I was there. This was when I was working late. I used to work 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. on shifts, which is nasty. 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. with Wednesday and Thursday off. This is the rough story. I've missed Thanksgivings, I've missed Christmases. My wife had to cook a turkey. I was terrified. She was like, I don't know how to do this, so I left her 2 pages of instructions on how to cook a turkey. She followed them to the letter, and turkey was amazing. It just goes to show that I'm pretty good at telling you how to make a turkey. So if you guys need any advice on making turkey. So 45 minutes. It's 8:15 when this begins. It's 9 p.m. And finally, my buddy's like, I have to cut him off. It's 9. Like, I can't stay. I have to go home. And he was like, do you, okay, bye! And just hangs up. I called back and he was like, phones are off. So we got the phone train that was like, I'm sorry, all phones are currently disabled right now. You know, please call back. He called back tomorrow and he got the same guy. It was pretty amusing. Like, you could see who's calling. So my buddy like picked up the phone again. He's like, hey, do you have a problem? And he was like, no, I just bye. Just hangs up. Calls again. He's like, do you have a problem yet? I just want to rent. Bye. Just hangs up. We had the same thing, and eventually he was like, I'm not going to get anyone else, am I? And he was like, no. You are always going to get me for the next 5 years. Like, you know, every time you call, I'll pick it. If you have a problem, I'll help you. If you don't have a problem, I'm hanging up on you. And the guy was like, fair enough. Anyway, if you want to hear more stories or anything else, let me know. I'll be outside. And thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate it.